Okay, welcome everyone. So thank you for coming today, and then we're streaming live. So this property is Untitled property. What I want to show you is, first of all, we're going to walk the property, and then we're going to talk about how we found the property, the scope of work, and what we're going to do with it on the back end. Sounds good. So we can just walk through the property. We're going to start from the back, and then move forward, and then to the front. But actually, let's take a quick look at the back and also the outside. So this is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. You have siding. So what we've done already, some of the demo work, cleanup. We'll get a dumpster. Already, as soon as you close on the property, you have to pull permits and apply for, obviously, get all the utilities turned on, like the water, electric, gas. So that's the first thing that you have to do. So let's quickly walk the property. When you walk the property, you have to pay attention to foundation issues, also windows. As you can see, watch your step over here. As you can see, windows are pretty dated, so we're missing screens. Also, something that you all need to pay attention to is the pitch, right? If the water is going towards the property or not, you see these cracks. So that's something that you have to repair, because eventually it's going to go into the basement. So in here, you walk through the front. So as you can see, the windows, they all need to be replaced. So we have 26 windows. And then the front, you also have to consider, the curb appeal on the property. We don't have a garage. So this is something we're going to need to fix: the front, the steps, handrails, get them painted, and also the floor in the front. So now we can go inside the property. So this front porch needs to be scraped and then painted. So now, as you can see, the property from the inside looks in pretty good shape. This is hardwood floors. So what we do here is we're gonna sand it and then finish it. So we'll go for garbage. And here we can go, that's the living room, the dining area. So this is the first bedroom on the right, but we're gonna start with the back porch. So we already did the demo work in the kitchen. So the kitchen cabinets were not usable at all, okay? So everything has to go, nothing that we could salvage. This is a space for probably storage in the back porch. And then we're going to go down to the mechanicals. So when you walk a property, things that you need to pay attention to is mechanicals and here, let's walk the basement. So you just watch your step. So as you can see, the mechanicals are, the water heater seems quite old. So the lifespan of the water heater, I'm going to wait for everyone to be here. Usually they last 10 to 15 years, but this is towards the end of its lifespan. So the furnace, it looks like it's in decent shape, and it's working. But other than that, can you smell the humidity? Yeah. That's because of the cracks. So if you can come here, let me show you. So the cracks from the outside will eventually, the water is going to go inside the basement. So you see these are watermarks. So this all needs to be sealed, okay, all around the cracks. And then we can go back out the same way. So those are the things that you really need to pay attention to: the smell for humidity and the cracks in the foundation. They all need to be fixed. The cost to repair the cracks is about $2,000 to $3,000 all around the basement. So now here we're going to walk into the bathroom and the first bedroom. So we already did the demo work in the bathroom, and then this is the first bedroom.
Te pregunto después entonces. No, salir.
So this is the living area, and then we're going to walk upstairs to the second floor. So we have one bedroom, one bath, and then let's go up to the second floor. So in here, we're going to wait for everyone to come up. On the second floor, the only thing that we're going to do is flooring, obviously the paint, and as you can see, these windows, or this window was replaced, so we're not going to touch that window. But if you look at the rest of the windows, they all need to be replaced. So in here, we will be carpet. And as you can see, the bathroom, the second bathroom does not need much work, just the cabinet, the vanity, mirror, and then clean up. So in here, primarily painting and then carpeting. Are there any questions online? In the chat, any questions, anyone? Please ask your questions, and then Eddie's going to help us.
20 people.
20 people? Okay, so perfect, great job. So what we're going to do next, friends, is we're going to talk about how we found the property, and then how much the property is worth, and how we got it funded, okay? So the way we found these properties, bank owned property. So what it means is that the bank already foreclosed on the owner, okay? So when analyzing a property, the first thing that you need to look at is the area before even you come see the property, okay? What's the area all about? And then you need to think about your exit strategy. What are you going to do with the property, right? Because guess what? There are flipping markets. So if you're going to do a rent, buy and hold, you need to make sure that the market supports that exit strategy, okay? Because there are markets where you don't get collectible payments, right? So you can do successful rentals in that market. So Elmwood Park, it's a B+ area. So we have A, the best, and B being like the Wild West. So right now, we need to focus on B+, A- areas. The reason why is because of the pandemic. These areas, primarily you have white-collar employees, they get work from home. Even compared to C and D markets, they've been hit the hardest because you have primarily blue collar, okay? So they got laid off, they don't get to work from home, so they can't afford to pay the rent or the mortgage. So if you're gonna do a transaction there for either a flip or a buy and hold, you're gonna struggle right now getting collectible tenants or getting top dollars for your flip. Now, this area, it's a B+ area. So right now we're focusing on B+, A- areas, not A+ because they're too expensive, nothing works, too risky. So right now, B+. So we know that Elmwood Park is a great area for rentals because guess what? You can still find affordable homes under 200,000 and the rents are very high, close to 2,000 and up. Okay, so we know it's a rental market. Right now, it's not the time to do flips. Why? Because of the pandemic, unemployment, so property prices are going to drop up to 20% in the next 12 to 18 months. So doing a flip is too risky. Plus, when you do a flip, if you do a successful flip, you trigger a tax event. So you're going to need to pay taxes on the gains. Not only that, but the rehab has to be like perfect for you to command top dollars. Not only that, you need to buy it for the right price. And when you do the rehab, you have to be on the budget. If you miss one of those numbers, you may not make any money. So right now is the time to do wholesalings and buy the whole. So now, once the area looks okay, the second thing that you need to do is location of the property, right? So you want to make sure that you stay away from busy streets, cemeteries, rivers, airports, train tracks. Okay, so this is in a quiet street. That's what you want. Okay, you want a quiet street, and then once the location is good, the next step is to look at the outside. So the outside looks good, except for the windows, right? Most of the windows, they all need to go up, and then it doesn't have a garage, okay? And ideally, we love to focus on 3-bedroom, 2-bath, no basement. And you saw why, okay? These had a basement, okay, fine. But ideally, when you have basements, remember like about a month ago, there were like tons of floodings. We had issues in a couple of properties where it was like a swimming pool. So the problem with that is that not only do you need to fix the inside, the water is coming from where? Okay, from the outside or a sewage blockage that is the DH's fault, right? And they're not gonna pay for your damage. Not only that, but downstairs you have the washer, dryer, the furnace, and the water heater. So a repair could go as high as 10,000 or more. So that is why we like no business, right? So it doesn't mean that bigger is better. Bigger is more expensive and higher risk. So this property has a basement. Now that the two factors came okay, the area and the outside, then you go into the inside. We like to stay away from gold rehabs. Gold rehabs is where you need to do all the systems like plumbing, electric, windows, roof, foundation. In this case, this is, I wouldn't call this a light, this is, I would say, more like a medium. So I'm gonna tell you, light rehab is where you do flooring, you update the kitchen, you update the bathroom, you do light fixtures, paint, and that's it. That's a light rehab. Medium rehab is where you're not updating the kitchen, but you're putting a new kitchen. So that's a little bit more expensive. So kitchen cabinets are gonna be probably 2,500. Plus labor, plus fixtures, is going to be close to 6,000 to 7,000 at least. It's a small kitchen. Because just the countertop, you're going to do granite, it's going to be close to 1,500 to 1,700 for the countertop itself. So the kitchen will run about 7,000 to 8,000. The bathroom was in horrible conditions, so a new bathroom will be about 6,000 to 7,000, right? So it's, to me, it's medium. We're not okay. Like the bathroom upstairs on the second floor, that is a light rehab. Why? Because we're not going the whole thing, right? We're just opening or adding cabinets, like fixtures. So this is not only that, but the windows. We don't like to replace windows because every time you touch a system, like plumbing, electric, windows, foundation, roof, guess what? Or HVAC. Every time you replace the system, is going to be 7,000 to 12,000 for every system. So your numbers are going to be off. So right now, to do 26 windows, it's going to be 6,500, and we're paying like base prices. Okay, so we got a quote from, we got two quotes. The other one was 10,000. Okay, but the average investor will end up paying 12,000 just for windows. So we're paying about 6,500. You need to pull permits. So every time you touch a system, that's another thing. You need to pull permits. So when you close on the property, you need to do two things. Start the utilities, gas, electric, water, and also pull permits. So we require permits for the windows, for the rehab. Any electrical or plumbing work will require a permit. Any work on the fence requires a permit. Any work on the basement, especially like the cracks, will require a permit. Any work on the HVAC will require a permit. Okay. It's super important to pull permits because let me tell you something, a secret. When you buy a property and then you need utilities, right? You turn on the water and the building department somehow in most villages are connected. So if you turn on the water, boom, you're gonna notify the building department and you're gonna have an inspector the next day. Okay, so it's super important to pull permits. To pull the permit, you're gonna need to have, depending on the village codes, from general contractor, and we have two types that you can pull: homeowner's permit or you get a GC. Okay, so we're getting a GC pull permits. Okay, because for plumbing, electric, you still need to get licensed electricians, licensed plumbers. You cannot do that type of work. Okay, so once you do that, let's talk about the numbers. So the first thing, when you walk the property, you, as I said before, you're going to stick to light to medium rehab. So a light rehab is going to be no more than 30,000, 25 to 30,000. That's a light rehab. But this rehab is a medium rehab, so this is going to hit 35 to 40,000. Okay, why? Windows. That's just a 7,000 expense, right? The kitchen, this bathroom, the leaks in the basement. Okay. So that is why this is considered medium rehab. This is as much as we're willing to do. We don't want to take go rehabs. Go rehabs is where you need to do pretty much everything. Plumbing, electric, like new plumbing, new electric. You need to do the all the walls, and behind the walls you have in between the brick and the wall you have what? Installation of the pipes. I know I'm blank. Because you do more insulation. So you need to go that for the rehabs, okay? And roof. Luckily, the roof is in good shape. And then when you walk the property, especially on the second floor, you need to look up and see any water stains in the ceiling because that's going to determine whether you need to make any repairs in the ceiling. So now the next thing is, once you walk the property and you see that this is not a light rehab, it's a medium rehab, then what are the numbers, right? Because you need to get three numbers right. So how much will I be able to sell the property for once I do all the rehab, right? Then the second thing is, how much am I going to pay for the rehab? And number three is, how much should I pay for the property? If you miss any of those three numbers, guess what? You're going to potentially lose money. So the first thing that you need to come up with is the rehab amount. So what we like to do is, we get an idea of how much this is going to be, because this is not light to medium, light, it's medium, so I know it's going to be from 30 to 40. But we always like to get the contractor in the property because they might see things that you are not aware of, okay? So what they like to do is, for instance, there was carpet upstairs, so they'll remove the carpet and we'll do it. So they'll check that. They might poke a hole just to check the electric, if it's a conduit or that we may need to operate. They might look at the plumbing and we'll do that. So certain things where they might walk entirely the basement to see for any further more expensive issues, they're gonna do that. I won't be able to do that. So I send the contractor right away to not only give us a quote, but also to alert from any potential big issues that we need to stay away from or back out. Okay. So now the scope of work, as I said, is going to be close to 40,000. Now the ARV, right? How much are you going to sell the property for? So any guesses on, including on the line, how much will this property be worth after all the repairs have been made? Any ideas? 250? 250? Who else?
Probably about 300 over here. 325.
Okay, so very good. Online, we have a number with over 20 people on online. Any guesses on the ARV Elmwood Park 3-bedroom 2-bath? So it's going to be the price of the 265. 265. Okay. Now, when you do an appraisal, you're going to get two numbers. Okay, the as-is value, the way the property is right now, and also the after repair value. So you want to know those two numbers. Why? Because you obviously want to make money the minute you get the property on the contract. So you want to start with equity already. So the as-is value, any ideas?
I had a quick question.
Yes.
With your appraisal, was your ARV about the same price as the appraisal, or at what point did you order your appraisal?
Great question. So the question is, at what point did you get the appraisal done? Before, after? So the system, ChicagoDealVault came up with an ARV. Here we right away pulled the property. It's somewhere in the 300s. The appraisal came at 265 after repair value. Okay. So now the banks are being very conservative. They know property prices are going to drop in the next 6 to 12 months. So what we cared about is ARV and also how much we're going to pay for the property. So I'm going to give you the rule of thumb. Once you come up with the ARV, which we knew it was estimated to be 270 to 80, okay, you have to buy the property $100,000 less than that. And then you have two assumptions that it's in a B, A neighborhood or BC neighborhood, not a BC neighborhood, and that the rehab won't be more than 40,000. So the most we needed to pay for the property was how much? 170 or so, 170. So any guesses on how much we got the property in the contract for? No. That's an old listing. We got 150. We got it on the contract for 150. So in my mind, we need 100,000 spread. So if the ARV is 270 to 80, we need to pay no more than 170. Okay. Because I know the rehab is going to be less than 40, so then paying 150 is going to make sense for a flip, for a rental. Obviously, we won't do a flip, although we could do it. We don't want to do a flip right now. So this is a rental property. So once you have those three numbers, how much you're going to pay for the property, the rehab, and then the ARV, that's all you need. When you have those numbers down and you have that spread, then funding. This is about funding, right? How are you going to buy the property? Okay, so you're going to be using asset-based lenders, meaning lenders that focus on the asset itself, on the property, not so much on your W-2, your 1099, your income tax, your experience, no. They want to see a great deal with equity. So they need three things. They need equity in the property. So if we bought it for 150 and asset value is 205, right off the bat, we have 55,000 in equity and the ARV is 265, so you have enough meat in the bone. They want to see equity, cash flow if you're going to rent it, but if you have a lot of equity, cash flow will be naturally there, especially in a rental market, because that makes sense because rents are high. And then they want to see the debt coverage ratio being over 1.2. What that means is just a ratio banks use to ensure that when you collect in rent, will pay for all the operating expenses of the property and you will have a surplus of at least 20% cash flow. An example is, if you collect $1,200 in rent, all your expenses, including your debt service or mortgage payment, going whatever utilities you pay, should not exceed $1,000. So you need to cash flow at least $200. So that's what the banks expect right now. Now they're going to fund up to 65, 70% of the ARV. So what's 70% of 260? Calculator, 70% of 260.
182.
182, exactly. So 182 or so. So they're gonna fund up to 182, including purchase price and rehab. Okay, so for the scope of work, we submitted 35,000, and then the remaining they can apply towards the purchase. But they want you to have skin in the game, so they want you to pay at least 10 to 50% down. So to close on this property, they will require you to pay at least 15 to, I would say, with closing costs, 20 to 25,000. Okay, so 10% of 150 is 15,000 plus closing costs is another probably 5,000, so 20,000. Give and take, you need to have like 25,000. to close on the property. Super important. So now, how long will it take for the rehab? When you do a light to medium, it should be done in no more than 6 to 8 weeks. Okay, that's a big difference when you do gold rehabs. They take over 3 months. Okay. So once the rehab is done, we're gonna immediately put it on the market. Okay, for rent. We already ordered the windows, and then we're just waiting for the permits. As soon as the permits come in, boom. As you can see, most of the work is gonna be on the basement and on the first floor. Second floor is just paint and then carpeting, and obviously windows throughout. Now, the mechanicals, we still have to test out the water heater. Okay, water heaters might be 1,200 to replace, including labor. And then the HVAC, the testing, it seems to be working here. Now, are there any questions?
You go. So when you're initially doing the calculation, do you factor in rental? And also, is there a way in DealVault to look at what it could possibly rent for? Because there's an ARV, but nothing that really explicitly helps you find rental. Because I know there's like in your report, there's like a rentometer, but it's kind of like an average. But then in order to find like a more precise number, how would you go about doing that?
So great question. So in Chicago Deal, we're going to give you in the area reports. I'm going to pull them up. You have an idea of what the ongoing rents are for. So Elmwood, I'm going to search Elmwood Park. I'm going to pull up Elmwood Park. So this is the area. And what I want to show you here is, I'm going to scroll down. So Elmwood Park, livability is 476. So just close area. Let me go to the rental market. So this area supports flips and cash flow. So here, I'm going to show you 2 ways to find that out. This is the rental market, but this is at the area level. So a 3-bedroom will rent, this is median, 1750, okay? But in here, you can scroll down and click on the rental calculator. You see a rent Zestimate. So Zestimate is very accurate for rents at the property level. Okay, so overall, a 3-bedroom in Elmwood Park will be 1750, but it could be an apartment, right? So that's what's the average is the mean, but here it's at the property level. So this could rent for 2,000 a month.
So where is that pulling from?
Well, this is going from Zillow. Zillow is very accurate when it comes to rents. Not ARVs, but for rents, it's very, very accurate. Okay, are there any other questions?
Yeah, what did you spend on windows?
Windows are going to be 6,500 for 26 windows, so average of 250 per window. That includes labor and material.
Okay. What are you planning on your rehab costs?
So the question is, how much is going to be the rehab? The rehab is going to be between 36 to 40,000.
Okay. What's your buy price?
So the purchase price 150,000. ARV is 265.
Okay. Cash flow, rent?
Cash flow, so this is going to cash flow. So great question. A way to easily compute the cash flow is the rule of 1%. So if you buy the property for 150,000, you need to collect at least 1,500 in rent. The rent is going to be 2,000. So this is going to cash flow at least 300 to 350. Also the cash flow.
And what are the taxes?
Taxes, let me go to owner loan down right here. And taxes are 55, 59. So 5,500.
Is that the exemption?
No, it doesn't have exemptions. So great point. Every time we buy a property, we hire a company that all they do is tax appeals. So right away, appeal taxes, okay? So that you all obviously try to pay less in taxes. Great question.
It can be appealed if it's not a primary residence?
Yeah, absolutely. So it could be an investment property. So they're going to take into account the comps in the neighborhood. And based on that, how much you pay for the property, how much the area is going to be for the property, and then they can adjust the taxes. It's always a great idea. They're going to charge you 33% of the savings. So if they drop the property taxes by 1,000, you're going to need to pay them 330.
What's the name of the company?
Send us an email and we'll send you we use two companies, great companies for tax appeals. And what I love about them is that you give them the address once. And guess what? Every tax appeal period, they're going to do that for you. So you don't need to remember, oh, I need to appeal taxes. Why? Because that's how they increase their revenue, right? It's in their best interest to just do it when it applies.
I have a question.
Yes.
You talk about walking the property with your contractor.
Yes.
At what stage do you do that? Do you do it before closing, like when you're doing the inspections and all that, or are you talking after you close the property?
Okay, this is a great question. So the question is, when do you walk the property with your contractor? So first of all, I don't come with a contractor. I don't like to go to the properties first time. I like to have somebody do that. So in this case, this is a bank-owned property. So we have access through the shadow inventory to all the bank-owned properties. Everything that goes to the auctioning platforms like auction.com, we have access. So for instance, once you like a property, everything works number one, then we can pull them from the back door. So what it means is our partner is going to pull all sorts of strings to pull the property, regardless of what people are doing in the auctioning platforms. Even though if they're bidding on the properties, it doesn't matter. We're going to pay the reserve price, which is what the bank is going to sell it for. At the auctioning platform, you're going to overbid each other. You're going to overpay for the property. We will never overpay for the property. We won't get into the bidding war. So we're just going to lock in at what the bank is going to sell it for. So with this program, once you say, I want the property, there's no way back. You cannot wholesale. You just have to close on the property. So we're going to sign a commitment agreement with our partner that we're buying the property. And then 3 weeks later, you're going to sign the purchase agreement with the bank, okay, after 3 weeks. In those cases, when we do that, we know we have to buy the property. So before we sign the commitment agreement, we send the contractor, hey, go and check it out, because most of these properties, even in the system, it said that it was occupied, where it was vacant, right? We asked the neighbors, it was vacant, and then we tried to see if for some reason there's anything like a window open or maybe the door open that can let us into the property to see the condition, okay? Because then we don't want to commit to something that is going to be a go rehab. But usually through the windows, it's easy to get an idea of the condition of the property, okay? And then walking the outside will give you a good idea. But once we sign that commitment agreement, then we get the contractor inside the property.
Can you clarify? So I had the same question, but
Yes.
when you tell the bank you want it, you have 3 weeks till that commitment agreement. So is that how this works?
No, once you say, I want the property, then you sign a commitment agreement, and that's it.
Okay. So
That's
you
it.
try to send someone even before you tell
Before,
the bank.
exactly,
Okay.
before. So I know it's a great deal, and send somebody just in case.
Okay.
In some cases, we have not been able to get inside the property before we sign the commitment agreement, but through the windows, during the day and then at night. We come in the property and then check if it looks in good shape, and we just move forward. Because we know we're gonna need to touch everything, right? All we care is that it's not like a go rehab where everything is just in the studs. That's what we wanna make sure, because we know we're gonna touch everything, cosmetically, but we're gonna need to touch it. So we just wanna make sure that it's okay.
And can you finance bank loan properties, or is it, I know you're talking about the asset lender, but is that considered like a cash lender?
So that's a great question. So when you go to the auction websites, most of them say cash only. Guess what? Through the program, we can finance the deals through Harmony lenders, even though in the auction sites it says cash only. So that's a huge advantage.
Hard money lenders only?
Harmony lenders or private money lenders,
Okay.
or private money lenders. So they are both asset based.
And when we do the bank loan, it's like a dual agent, right? We wouldn't bring our own agent to that process, right?
Great question. So I have my licensed broker, our partner Jacob, I told him, can you somehow use my brokerage or license to get the commission back? He said, here, yeah, we'll be able to do it on this deal, maybe not on the next one. So it depends. So in this deal, I think we're able to get like 3-4% commission back.
So you may be able to bring an agent.
Exactly, you might be able to represent yourself.
Oh, what about if we're not representing ourselves?
Oh, no, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, because it's between the bank and you. So if you get a broker's license, because on the auction platforms, they take brokers, right? So they give commissions to brokers. But when we do it through the back door, sometimes they let you do that. Because you know what, you're paying the reserve price. So that is why they might say, since we're giving you at the reserve price, we're not gonna give you double that a commission, right? Especially if you're gonna be the owner and the broker both at the same time. But if it's through the open market, then they're gonna give commission to brokers.
How do you know the reserve price?
That's a great question. We know the reserve price for all the properties that go to the auction platforms through the connections with our partner Jacob. Because when you go to the auction sites, most oftentimes you don't see the reserve because it's to their advantage. They just want people to overbid each other. And not only that, but they have this what's called proxy bidding. So you're bidding against, let's say, auction.com. They have employees bidding against you to rack up the price. With one limitation that we know how much back is going to sell it for. It's in the system. I'll show you in just a second. Where you need to engage in that part. Our business partner makes a commission with the inventory we get. So he makes between 2,000 to, I've seen all the way to 6,000 is the average, 2,000 to 6,000. So that's how much he makes as a consulting fee for letting us pull the property from the back door, which to me, it's nothing, right? I'll be paying 2,600, 10,000 if I can get the property for 30,000, 40,000 less. An example of that is the property amount prospect. Did you guys join the webinar for that? So that's another property we was about 7 weeks ago. So when we got the inventory for that property, I saw the reserve was 160, and then I logged online. The bid was at 198 already, and still it had 1 day remaining before the auction ended. So that property was going to sell for close to 230 to 40. The ARV was 280 on that property. 290, but we got it for 160. So I said, man, this is a great deal. It's in an A area, Mount Prospect, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, finished basement. I mean, it's in great shape. The rehab was 33,000 on that. So again, like to meet you. We couldn't get that property bought through the windows. They didn't have any blinds, so we could see it was like in very good condition. We did have to redo the entire kitchen and then the bathroom. But still, the rest of it's just cosmetic paint and light fixtures. That's it. So that's the big advantage that we know what the reserve price is. And not only that, but we're going to pay that price. So you don't need to engage in these bidding wars. And not only that, you can finance the deal, which is huge.
Yeah.
Right?
I was going to say, is the commission you have to pay Jacob built into the reserve price? I'm sorry, or is that something you have to pay separately?
So great question. The question is, the commission that we pay to our partner, is that built into the price? No, that is separate. It goes into escrow. When you sign the commitment agreement, you're going to pay like a down payment, 2 to 3% plus his fee. So that goes into escrow. Once that you close on the property, he gets that money.
And we'll know the amount of fee, or is it different?
The fee depends on the property. So when you see a property that you like, you communicate directly with him and you say, is this available? And if so, how much? I mean, what's the reserve? I mean, what's the fee? You call it a fee. What's the fee? He's going to tell you 2 or 3. The most I've seen was 9,000 on a fee. This was in a property in Oak Park, but the property was quite expensive, like 260 to 280. So we're buying properties below 200,000. That's the sweet spot. Okay, so you want to buy anything below 275 with light to medium rehab, because the minute you start going over 200, just the risk is too high. And then right now, it's the time to focus on rentals and wholesaling, because what's going to happen, the forbearance, it's a 12-month period where it allows owners to pretty much skip payments. It's not forgiveness of payments, it's just delay of payments. So that's going to end early March 2021. So you're going to see a huge wave of
purchase coming down the pipe. That is why it's going to cause prices to come down. So super important to, right now, stash cash, and also like the funding. And then learn as much as you can, have access to the deals, because when they come, you can pull the trigger anytime. And also because interest rates are extremely low right now, the lowest in history. So right now is the time to have a property to sell, you need to sell it now. If you're gonna have a property that is in a high interest rate, you have to refinance. We're refinancing 5 properties right now. Okay, we want to lock it into the upper 4s, lower 5s. So it's super important that you do that. And focus on wholesaling and buying. Great questions. Are there any other questions, Cindy?
Yeah, what are your total holding costs?
Holding cost for these is going to be, so you pay the interest, it's an interest only payment to the Harmony lender is going to be about $1,000, and then you pay taxes, so taxes is going to be about $450, and then utilities, so another $250, so it's going to be close to $1,750 a month. So we want to get this done as soon as possible, because every month that passes by, you're losing money on the cost.
Are you using a commercial lender to refinance?
Yes, commercial lender to refinance, and then you can combine multiple properties, and they do what's called a blanket loan. So they can take all of them and then bundle them into one loan.
So with that, there's no 6-month waiting period?
Exactly, the season period goes. So if you have enough equity, you can even do a cash out.
You can do a cash out before 6 months?
Yes, with commercial lenders, absolutely. Yeah.
And who are you using for commercial?
West Bank.
West Bank?
West Bank. We can send you the send us an email to support at ChicagoDealVault, and we will send you the contact information.
So, a quick question on taxes. So you buy a property,
Yes.
and it's, the tax events are what, February and August is tend to be when the tax bills come out.
Depending on the village, depending on the county. So every county has different.
Every county's different, but are you paying a monthly tax while you're in that property? It's 2 months or 6 months or 2 months, 4 months, whatever it is, you're paying a monthly. You're basically setting aside that money, or are you actually paying it out during the period based on the tax event that's happening in that particular area?
Oh, no, so we escrow all the time, escrow taxes and insurance, and also some of the lenders require you to carry escrow.
But that's on the back end refi. What about on the?
Also in the front end for Harmony lenders, they want you to have reserves. Yeah, because they don't want any issues. They want to make sure that taxes are paid. So yeah, some of them they require you to have up to 3 months of reserves. Yeah. So they're going to factor that into the loan.
The
Yes.
commercial, cash out, are the requirements, do you have to have W-2s and?
So great question. The requirements to do a refinance are the following. So you need to, they're going to do an appraisal of the property. You have to have at least 25 to 30% equity. So if the property is worth 200,000, they'll give you up to 150,000. Okay, and then you have to have the property rented. Super important, and they're going to ask you for your income and liquidity. Okay, but again, if you have the equity, that's what they're going to be focusing on. They're not going to be focusing on much in your income, but they do want to see some sort of reserves, right? But the refinance, if you have equity, then it's going to be easy.
And what kind of, for the rental, what kind of verification do you have to provide? Is it like rental checks?
No, leases. You need to provide leases.
Okay.
Great question. So leases, that's to show that you have a rental, you need to provide leases to the lender. And then tax returns. You're going to need to provide the tax returns for your entity, because Harmony lenders, private money lenders, they all want to lend on your entity. The reason why is because they can take over the property in like 6 months if it's under your entity versus your personal name. Foreclosure process can take up to 2 years. It has to go through the court system. So any other questions? Great questions.
No.
What kind of interest rate are you getting on the commercial refinance?
We're looking into upper 4s, lower 5s.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, interest rates are
That's great, yeah.
very, very low. On the Harmony lenders, you're looking at between 9 and I've seen all the way to 15%. but the average is 12. We pay 10, between 9 and 10 for Harmony lender. And again, they're gonna pay for 90 or 80% of the purchase price and 100% of the rehab, but this is the key. They're not gonna give you the money to the rehab up front. You have to fund that yourself. And once it's done, they're gonna send somebody to inspect the property and then they release the money, okay? The reason why is because they wanna make sure that you do the work, because they give you the money and you may not do anything. So that's when you need to use your business credit cards, okay? You can tap into cash advances to pay some of the contractors or for labor materials. You use that. Super important. If you have the list of business credit cards, let us know. We'll give you the info for you to apply for business credit cards under your entity.
What is the commercial interest rate?
Commercial interest rate over 4s and lower 5s. And then I want to show you the shadow inventory now. So we're getting about 500 to 1,000 properties a week. And then, by early next year, this is just to increase tremendously. So right now, this week, we got 578 properties, certified properties. So what I like to do is we have different filters by equity, by occupancy. I really ignore the occupancy filter because in this property and not prospect, it said that it was occupied, but it was not. So at the time that they did the filing, maybe it was occupied and then people moved out. So you always want to buy properties that are vacant, not occupied, because if they're occupied, you may not have access to the property, so the appraiser won't be able to come here, inspectors, contractors, so you won't get funding if it's occupied. Super important. There are some lenders like home lending, it's a nationwide lender. They're going to do a drive-by appraisal or desktop appraisal, but they're going to have you put like 35, 40% down. If it's occupied, and then you still need to get the people out. Unless you have an agreement with the owner, usually we've done this in we paid it 3,000 to 5,000 for them to give us access to the property, for the appraisal contractors, and for them to move out when we close. That's also something that you can do, but you need to do that with the owner directly. So let me just show you, for instance, displays. Let me pull this up. So this is an example of a property where you see the reserve price. We call it target. So it's 265, the reserve price. ARV 347 to 380. But in here, this is a big house, 5-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,300. So we estimate the rehab to be over 40. So the most you spend for this property is for a flip 208, for a rental 244. So in this case, look, low 265 purchase price. So it doesn't make sense. We will skip this because this is too big of a house. But this is just an example. Let me pull up another one. Oak Park. So Oak Park is obviously super expensive. Let me go to the next one. So what I like to do is I like to filter, put all of these on the map. Let me show you this. So this is an example where you see the reserve price. Okay. So what you need to do is once you get the list, you're going to get vetted by Jacob. So you need to provide your entity docs, proof of funds, or line of credits. And then once you get vetted, you can just start looking at the properties. So let me give you an example. Over 50% equity. So let me show you what it means. So that means that what you're going to pay for the property is less than 50% or so of what it's worth. So this property, you can get it for 70. It's a 4-bedroom, 1.5 baths, but it could be worth over 100. So you're paying like 50 cents on the dollar. And then here, Eagle, if you were to do a flip, the most you should pay is 64, and you're going to be paying 69 for the property. But again, you also need to take into account the rehab. This is super important because this is going to drive your max allowed offer. If the rehab is greater, then obviously you need to pay less. Yes.
Now, when you see a property on that shadow inventory,
Yes.
and you do your due diligence with the numbers, do you then ask to see if it's available to Jacob?
Yes, exactly. So for instance, let's assume that we like this property in, this is in Chicago, right? So the next thing is if everything looks good, what we mean by that is, first of all, I need to understand the area that it supports my exit strategy. Second of all, location, right? Is this in a quiet street? Yes. Then I look at the numbers. This is how much I'm going to pay for, but this is how much ChicagoDealVault tells me. Let's assume that it's a great deal. The next thing is inquiry. So this is how you communicate with Jacob. So in this case, is this available? And then I want to know the fee. So then I'm going to say fee. This is how you will communicate directly with him, and he's going to respond, yes, available fees, let's say 2,000 to 3,000.
Okay, before I forget, now, do you have to offer the price that's recommended, or can you go lower?
This is what the banks reserve, so they will take a penny less.
Okay.
Banks reserve.
And when you did your search on the drop down where it says shadow inventory, did you go to Fallout or?
Target. Right now, we're just using Target for now, so we need to remove the other two options.
Okay.
So what I like to do is, when I look at the inventory, I don't put any filters by anything, so I like to plot them in the map. So I'm going to clear the filters, all 500, I just click on map, and then it's going to plot them on the map, because I understand the areas we need to focus on, B plus, A minus areas. And then I just start looking at the icons on the map, just for the locations that we're interested in. That's a lot easier.
And when you ask how, is it still available, how long does it take to know something by, and how long does the process take to?
Great question. So we get the properties, let's say this week. These properties, most of them are going to be already in the auction platforms. So you have about a week. So you need to move pretty fast. So if you see it in this week, then this property will go to auction potentially next week. So you really need to act pretty fast. So this is what I like to do. So I go into the map, I zoom in, and then I go, let's say Bolingbrook, it's a great area, great rental area. So let's look at this one, but you see, I see the price, 357, that's way too high. Okay, it just doesn't make sense. They're asking for way too much. Okay, but let me go back to the map. So this is where I can spot properties very, very fast, because all you need to do every park. It's another great rental area. 22. I like that. So here you click on it. I just want to see the ARV, so you see it doesn't make sense. Why? Because it's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. It's too small, right? So we like to focus on 3-bedroom. It's more marketable. Okay, and then it's occupied. I ignore these. I will, if everything makes sense, location, the numbers make sense. The next thing that I'm going to do is drive by the property just to see if it's occupied or not. And then the best sources is tenant, neighbors. They tell you everything, whether it's occupied or not. Yeah.
Is there a date on there that it came on, so we know, like, we have about a week from that date, or?
So what I do is, let me give you an example. So for instance, this property, Chicago, it's 132, ARV should be 180. Yeah, you're going to buy it with equity up to 182. Chicago tells you to pay no more than 120 for a rental, 100. So let me give you an example. If we look up for this, we look up this property online, it should be somewhere in the auctioning platforms already. So Redfin, Zillow, Realtor, Julian, oh, this one, Hudson and Marshall. So it's already here. So the top starting bid 120. So the top auctioning platforms, auction.com, Hudson.com, Hudson and Marshall, and Williams and Williams. Okay, so starting bid. So look at this. Auction begins August 10th. That is in 2 days. Starting bid 120. And then sometimes they show pictures of the inside, but most of the times they don't. Okay, so let's go back to Vivo. So 120, we can buy it for 132. Okay, so most likely this property, if there are investors interested in this area, it's going to go for way over 132. Does that make sense? Because the starting bid is 120. So you rent for the auction. Look at these cash only. So that's the problem. In this auction site, you can finance, and through this inventory in Vivo, you will always be able to finance the property. Okay, that's a huge benefit.
You said if it's occupied, it's your responsibility to get them out.
Exactly. But right now, it's going to be very difficult to get them out. What I've done is I like the property. There was one in Cicero where I went to the property, it was occupied, but it was a good deal. Because it was rehab. We just brought 10,000 worth of work. So I talked to the owner, and then he said, "Yeah, Hugo." I said, "I need you to do two things. Let us in 2-3 occasions and move out when we close. In exchange, I'll give you 3,000. They said yes. Okay, and then we signed an agreement. They put their driver's license and the picture. If I present that to the lender, then they'll be okay because they need access to the property. And,
When you approach the the owners like that, they willing to cooperate, or do some of them?
Some of them no, some of them yes, because let me tell you, what's going to happen is, I've done it twice already. What's going to happen is they're going to lose the property. They're going to be kicked out eventually. So if I come in and I say, listen, I need you to move out, eventually you're going to need to buy. No, I'm not on the door. I also can keep tracing this better in person. So I said, listen, we're buying the property. So I need access to the property and possession when we close on the property. In exchange, I'm going to give you a moving relocation fee, $3,000-4,000, because regardless, he has to move out eventually. So if they get some money now, they'll be motivated to do that. But some people, they just don't want to move out.
Is that owner occupancy or is that already a rental? If it's a renter, they're going to be less motivated, right?
I've done it with both. A renter, so the bank took over, and then there was a renter, and I said, listen, the property was in bad shape in Cicero, and I said, listen, we're going to pay you for your moving expenses, so meaning a truck, whatever you hire, plus the movers, we're going to clean up the property, we're going to pay you for storage, and we're going to give you $1,000 for your whatever you want to do cash. No, actually, it was $2,000, so we ended up paying like close to $3,500, $4,000 for them to move out on time. Actually, they moved out before, but it was a crazy deal. We bought it for 90, and it was worth 190, so 100,000 spread, not much work. So yeah, we've done it twice.
What about if the property has any like violations?
Okay.
Did you hear about that, or is that just your problem because you bought it and you have to deal?
Yeah, exactly. If it has violations, then it's your problem. You have to fix it. So these have violations, now we have to fix it.
So in properties like these, the back door, you really don't find out about that during the process of purchase. Right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So you run a FOIA or something the same way you would?
They probably should when you have time. For some villages, it might take, the strict times.
Yeah.
You don't have time for the FOIA. FOIA means that you go to the village, fill out a form, or you can do it online, depending on the village, and they're going to give you violations, they're going to give you bills, anything that is outstanding that you need to pay for. You may not have time for that. So you go with the assumption that you need to also repair. That is why you always in your scope of work need to have a cushion of $5,000 to $10,000. Super important because there's always unexpected items. Okay, so here one of the unexpected items from when I saw the inspection was the joists in the basement. They need to be reinforced. So that's going to be the work went from 19,000 to 23 gross for labor by adding these violations. So it added like 2,000-3,000. And
But if you get, I'm sorry, before I forget, if you get finance through a hard money lender, don't they check the violations?
no, they don't care. They just run the scope of work. They say, give me the scope of work. So we always have to add a cushion 5 to 10,000 in the scope of work because of unexpected. They're always like a kind of one.
So your first estimate was 40, you might as well just say 50.
Exactly. At least I have 5. Okay. 5 to 10,000, and sometimes we don't use that money. Sometimes we use like the property in Caesar. I think we asked for 25, and we ended up doing it for 30. Right. So sometimes it gives and takes.
So obviously you can't do a line item for, for cushion, right? So would you just increase each line item by like a certain percentage to get you to a additional, 10%?
Exactly. So you increase, or you have miscellaneous. You can do a miscellaneous, but like you said, with the M1, you look at each room, like bathroom, how many bathrooms, basement. So you sometimes need to, sometimes have no account for HVAC work, and we have to do HVAC work. So yeah, you may need to increase each line item, or have a miscellaneous. And they understand.
Gotcha. So you would want to get like a scope of work from a contractor, and then you would fill out the actual scope of work that you send to the hard money lender with all the increases in certain areas. So rehab.
Exactly. Exactly. And then each lender has their own form. So they're going to give you a spreadsheet for you to fill out.
So back to the site. Are you finished?
Oh, I said gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like I was asking you about the violations, would the same thing apply for past taxes that were not paid? I mean, could it suddenly happen that there were 4 years of unpaid taxes that could happen as well?
Great question. Okay, so the question is what's going to happen to backdoor taxes, right? So the owner didn't pay taxes in the last 2-3 years. You closed on the property, so who's liable for that? So the great thing is when you buy properties from the bank, backdoor properties, you are going to get a special warranty deed. So the taxes are already paid by the bank at closing. If there are any backdoor taxes, the bank has to pay for that. So you don't have to worry about that. So that's the beauty about that, buying bank-owned properties versus if you buy them before they go to the auction. That's where always can lose a property. There you need to do your due diligence because you're dealing with the owner. They have backdoor taxes, guess who needs to pay for that? You as the investor. Or if they have any liens, you have to pay for those. But when you buy from the bank has to cover everything. Everything, including like the water bill, anything that is owed, liens, anything. That's why I love it because the risk is a lot less. So right now we're just focusing on bank-owned properties. There's so many of them. We get 600-500 a week. I mean, you should be able to find at least one decent deal.
How do you account for villages? So the village inspection, saying, okay, you got to smoke detector, you got to do the driveway, you got to fix the walkway or things like that. How do you account for all that based on that particular village? What do you include that in your kind of boost factor, or is that a separate line?
No, sometimes when we do the scope of work for the lender, we don't even have the inspection report yet from the village. That happened in this property. So I said, we got these on the contract, so the next thing is to line up funding right away. So we have the connection with the Harmony lender. All they need is the property details and the scope of work. So I send that even obviously before we close on the property because they're going to fund it. So we, like a day before we close on the property, certainly there was the violations. At that point, that day before we close on the property, we have to sign a document called as-is. That says you're buying the property as is and you're responsible for all the violations. So if you go ahead of time and they say, can I see the violations? They will give them to you unless you are actually the buyer of the property. So then you can have unexpected items like some driveways or things that you can.
But like, it's like smoke detector. I mean, that's not going to be a fortune because it's got to be wired.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be potentially $1,000 more to put like a wireless smoke detector versus having a wire for a wall.
Exactly. So we work on like big items, like these joists in the basement. We didn't know about those. So that was a surprise. So when the contractor came here, the overall estimate was 19,000. But after we saw the inspection report, they added 3,000. So that is why the cushion has to be there because there's always things that need to be addressed. Well, great questions. I mean, I'm impressed. You guys are on fire. You guys are on
Yeah,
fire.
a lot of these are.
Yeah.
These are great, these are great.
Yeah, no, we're starting. So right now we're also doing another rehab in a condo in Sugar Park. So I'm gonna take you to that potentially next week.
Great, great.
So
Thank
that yeah, you get the feel that's a condo. We typically don't like to do condos because of the bylaws, the association. Yeah, they change
Yeah.
overnight. They don't allow rentals, or it's just more complicated. But we'll go check out the property. But yeah, the focus right now should be on buying bulk and wholesales. And we found that Bank properties is just the way to go right now. I mean, it's just a lot easier. Because of the pandemic, you cannot easily knock on someone's door right now. They're gonna be like, whoa, right? So right now, Bank has worked great. Because eventually, when you reach out to sellers, you have to have them sign something. You need to see the properties. To do it digitally, it works as well, but it's really more of a challenge. Nothing like in person. So right now, things are starting to open up. It's a time for all of you to start getting feedback into real estate. There are going to be huge opportunities, I mean, for investors. That right now, with low interest rates, lower property prices, and there's going to be, right now there's a shortage of inventory, which is causing property prices to stay stable. And also because of elections, nothing is going to happen. But after elections, and when the second wave of the forbearance ends, which is March 2021, boom, you're going to see a skyrocket filings for foreclosure. So a lot of properties coming down the pipe. So from 21 to 24, you're going to start to see great opportunities. So this is the time to line up funding and get training, get access to deals. But we're not waiting. We're already close to 2 properties during the pandemic. I mean, the numbers make sense. Location, the properties in the condition, we're moving forward. We're not stopping. But it's going to get even better. So the only difference that we've seen is that lenders are requiring you more skin in the game. So what used to be a 10% now became a 15%. Okay, so save cash. It's super important. You have property equity, you have a cash out refinance, so you have liquidity, right? You want to see liquidity. Super important. Any other questions?
I was just gonna ask, what's your equity number if you're cash flowing, like at minimum? What kind of equity?
25%. 25% at least. Yeah, 25. So if you buy it for 100, and then you put up, let's say, 50,000, it should equate to at least 200. So you have at least 25% equity. So on the back end, when you refinance, you have that equity.
Yeah.
Super important. So the key is to find the good deal with equity. That's the key. And this is why we love the inventory, where we can see the reserve, right? And we can easily see the spread. We need 100,000 at least for the numbers to work.
So you want the equity after the rehabbing is done? I know for the cash out, but in general.
So great question. We want the equity the minute we get it on the contract. That's when you make money. So people think, oh, how do you make money in real estate? When I rent the property, when I flip the property, no, the minute you get it on the contract. So let me show you the appraisal on this property. So here, this is the appraisal on the property. So you can see 2 numbers. So how can I make it bigger? Here. So 265, but they have 2 numbers. Right here, let me scroll down. Oh, 265. That is the after repair value, but then they give you the assets value as well.
No, this is an appraisal after again, right?
Yes, but exactly. But you know what? They also include the assets value. There's no finding me. Let me see. Okay, so they're gonna give you two values. So this is what matters. When they do the ARV, even with the after repair value, when you see the spread, right? If you get on the contract for, so 265, and if you get on the contract for, this is the 250, 150, you see the spread? So that's a spread of 115,000 between the purchase price. And this is with auction.com, so this is the bank. So this is a way when you buy it from backed up or shadow inventory to buy from large banks. Because right now, there's no way that you can directly buy properties from the large banks because they want these postal properties bulk, not only one, but this is a way for you to buy a single property from the large banks. Because we also have the other shadow inventory, but you need to reach out to the lender directly. So this is the other bank property inventory. So if I put up one of the properties right here, in here you need to reach out to, where is the plaintiff? Oh, this is the plaintiff, so to the bank. Right.
I just asked because we had a property under contract where it's like 25% equity up front. Then we have very, very light rehabbing, but the rehabbing is going to put it out of that 25% equity, right? It's probably going to be more like the 20, like spread meaning. So I was like, it's good cash flow, but it's also like we're only starting with 25% equity, not including rehabbing.
Okay, so let's talk about the numbers. So you need 35% equity after the rehab. So
Yeah.
So purchase price 100, 50 for rehab, it has to price
Yeah,
like
yeah.
200.
Yeah.
Right, so it's not
Right.
150 purchase price, 200 price, and then the rehab is.
Right.
So make sure you include the purchase price, not the rehab, and then you need to have a capital at 25. Now, does everybody have access to this shadow inventory? You do? Who else? You know? Do you have access to the system?
Yes.
Perfect. So
We have access to the system as well, I'm not sure about the channel.
the shadow inventory. So to have the shadow inventory, you need to be a unit member. So when you're a unit member, you pay even less amount. So it's 1 to 8. So the way to upgrade, you can send us an email, or you can just let me know if you want to upgrade. You will upgrade to the yearly subscription. Or send us an email to support@chicago.com and we'll upgrade you to yearly. You'll pay less, you're going to save 100%, and you're going to have access to the inventory. Jacob is going to vet you, so he's going to need your entity docs, like operating agreement, bylaws, and so forth, and your land credit from the lender. Are there any questions?
Yeah. Do you begin working on the house before you close or take ownership?
Great question. Do you begin working on the house before you close? No, never. It's too risky. Something can fall through the cracks, and then no. And then you need to pull permits before you start working on the property, because this is the thing. If you start working on the property, and for instance, the neighbor calls the village, the inspector comes, and they see that you're working on the property, they're going to be very upset. When you have an inspector or the village being upset at you, they're going to make you rehab hell, right? So they're going to give you a hard time. So you want to make sure they're on your good side.
So what do? You pull a general permit?
Yes, so you're a GC to do it, or you can do homeowner's permit. If the rehab is light, you're just going to need an electrician or a plumber to pull permits for those type of repairs. Yeah, super important. Another question?
That's it.
Well, Hugo, how do you handle contractor pay structure? Like, I know a lot of contractors, they want 50% upfront.
Great.
How would you break it? And do you think that's reasonable?
Yeah, great question. So how do you work with contractors and how do you pay them? So first of all, you have their scope of work, and you sign an agreement, and then you pay them. We typically pay them on a weekly basis. So we split the work and then by milestone. So this milestone, let's say the kitchen, the bathroom, and all of these, the first floor is going to be worth 10,000. So upon completion of these is going to be 10,000. But usually we can do it by smaller milestones. So on a weekly basis, you pay them, but you never give them upfront 50%, especially contractors, right? So you need to see progress. Exception is with, for instance, when you pay for kitchen cabinets, you have to pay 50% to begin with, or if you're going to do new HVAC work, then they may ask you to pay 50% for the materials, or for windows, you have to pay 50%, because they're not going to order the windows and you pay nothing, because then you can say, oh, no, thank you. So you have an agreement. And then you have to know the people that you work with, that's critical. But contractors, no, we never pay them in advance. We pay them in arrears all the time.
But you'll give some type of like upfront to get project started?
No, we never do that. So they start working on the demo, and then once we see progress, like after a week, then we pay them 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, depending on the work completed. But never upfront, boom, because then we've had cases, or I've heard cases where investors pay them, let's say, 30% to begin with the project, and guess what? They never start the project. So they walk away, and then that's a big problem. And then once they complete the work, you need to have them sign a lien waiver form. So that means that they won't come tomorrow or the next day and file a mechanics lien on your property, right? Because you didn't pay them. So they need to have that signed. In fact, I was talking to Gary Davidson yesterday, and we're going to do an debate just on that. How to deal with contractors, and then lien waivers, mechanics lien. We're going to be talking about all of that in 1 minute. So Gary Davidson is going to be, we're going to be running that.
You ask them for their ID?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But you know, the crew that we've been working with them for the last 2 years, 2.5 years. So we.
Because you know what, we do rehab and repair work, but some of them say, no, I don't want to show my ID, and you know, you have the good ones and the bad ones, and they will try to stay ahead of you on payment. Just in case they want to run or you want to change something, then it's like, you know, so it's a lot of bad ones out there.
Always in areas, always. We don't want to be chasing everything. Okay, always in areas. Here.
That way you stay in the rear, that way you stay in control of the situation, because they want to go there.
Oh yeah, if they don't want to give you their ID, or if you feel comfortable just with the way to do it, then so do it. It's going to delay the project. You can just roll your numbers, forget it. They might not do quality work. Yeah. So we're going to have a session just on that. So great question. Any other questions on the line? Perfect. So just let's quickly summarize what we talked about today. So right now, due to the pandemic, you need to focus on rentals, wholesaling. Now, when you look at a property, the first thing that you need to look at is the area. Those areas support your exit strategy. Elmwood Park supports flips and rentals. We're going to do rentals because flips are risky right now. Property prices will eventually adjust. The second thing, location. You want to be in a quiet street. No commercial, no rivers, cemeteries, train tracks, airports. Third, look at the outside of the property. You look in good shape. We see properties that just looking at the outside is like, whoa, this is a god rehab, forget it. So once the outside looks okay, like it did in this case, we noise the windows, then go into the inside, just to see if it's light to medium, just to make sure that it's not a god rehab, right? And then run the numbers. You need 3 numbers. You need the ARV, you need the scope of work, and you need to know how much you need to pay for the property. These last numbers, for most investors, make mistakes. They might know the ARV, they might go to websites or DealVault. They may have an idea of the scope of work through contractors, but they don't know how much to pay for the property. They tend to overpay for the property, which means they're going to kill or maybe lose money in their flip or rental. So it's super critical. And the formula is take the ARV, multiply that times 70%, and then subtract your rehab. Now, next is start finding great deals. Okay, so we give you access to the shadow inventory. All you need is a yearly subscription to DealVault, and we're going to give you access for you to be able to pull properties from the backboard. We're going to know what the bank is going to sell for nothing less, nothing more, regardless of what people are bidding online, okay, which is super powerful. And start saving cash, line up funding, okay, because there's going to be a huge wave of distressed inventory coming into the market. And if you have property to sell, sell it now. If you have properties to refinance, this is the time to refinance, so low interest rates. And then take a step back, sharpen your saw, learn, come to events, seminars, super important, network. This is people's business. You have to work with the right team, okay? So we give you in ChicagoDealVault access to our preferred partners. Every single contractor, attorney, inspector, lender we use, it's in ChicagoDealVault on the preferred partners. So that concludes the event. So thank you everyone for coming. Amazing questions. I was impressed. Great questions. And I look forward to seeing you. We have an event tomorrow. We're bringing Dan Carlton. He's a top wholesaler. So he's going to show you new techniques, okay, tomorrow. So friends on the line, Phil, can you please send the link to sign up for Blue Angel or Lamborghini, please?
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank you so
beautiful,
much.
thank you. Have a